Ladies and gentlemen, there was a moment just a few weeks ago when South Africa decided it had finally cracked the code on Julius Malema, when timelines were flooded. WhatsApp groups were vibrating like transformers, and every second person suddenly became a relationship expert, a legal analyst, and a moral authority, all rolled into one. All because a man named Musa Khawula praised the post and dropped what looked like the kind of story people don't verify because, frankly, they don't want to. Allegations about a collapsing marriage, infidelity, divorce papers flying around somewhere in the shadows, even whispers of bribery. And South Africa didn't just consume it. It devoured it. It chowed it up, turned it into memes, hot takes, YouTube breakdowns, TikTok reactions, and those classic guys have been saying this for years threads from people who had in fact never said anything of that sort before that moment, because this wasn't about the truth. It was about satisfaction, the satisfaction of finally seeing Malema, the loudest man in the room, the disruptor, the agitator, the one who never lets anyone breathe politically, being dragged into the mud in a way that felt personal, messy, and most importantly, believable to those who already wanted to believe it. And that's the part nobody wants to admit. That Malema doesn't just have critics in this country. He has an entire audience waiting for him to sleep, waiting for him to fall, waiting for something, anything that confirms the version of him they have already decided is true. And so when Khawula's post hit the timeline, evidence was irrelevant, proof was optional, and skepticism was basically treason. Because why question a story that fits so perfectly into the narrative you have been carrying in your head all along? And for days, weeks even, the conversation wasn't, is this true? It was, wow, this explains everything. As if people had been waiting for a missing puzzle piece to complete their personal documentary on Malema's downfall. Except, here's the problem with the documentaries written by Twitter. Eventually, reality shows up uninvited. And in this case, reality didn't come through a counter Twitter or a press statement or even a heated TV debate. It came through the cold, quiet, unbothered corridors of the Gauteng High Court, where vibes don't matter, retweets don't count, and sources say gets you absolutely nowhere. Because suddenly the game changed from who is trending to who can prove it. And just like that, the entire atmosphere shifted because Malema, love him or hate him, didn't play the social media game. He played the legal one. And that's where his detractors consistently underestimate him. Because while they are busy crafting threads and recording reaction videos, he is drafting affidavits, assembling legal teams, and asking one simple question that tends to collapse entire online narratives in seconds. Can you prove it? And when the case finally landed before a judge, all that noise, all that confidence, all that collective certainty South Africa had been enjoying suddenly had to stand still and face scrutiny. And what did the court find? Not it's complicated, not there's some truth here, not we need more time, but a clean, clinical conclusion that the statements were defamatory, untrue, and unlawful, which is legal language for you said things you couldn't back up and they damaged someone's reputation. And just like that, the same country that had been so loud, so animated, so convinced went quiet. Very quiet. Because now the question isn't what was said. It's why it was believed so easily in the first place. That's where this story stops being about Khawula and starts being about everyone else. Because let's be honest, Khawula didn't force anyone to believe him. He simply gave people a story and they ran with it because it aligned with their bias, because it felt right, because it confirmed something they already suspected, and that's the uncomfortable truth about Malema's detractors. That for many of them, the goal isn't accuracy, it's confirmation. And when confirmation arrives, it doesn't get tested. It gets celebrated, amplified, monetized, and turned into content. And now, here we are, on the other side of a court ruling, watching that entire machine stall. Because suddenly, the stakes are different. Suddenly, it's not just about being wrong on the internet. It's about being wrong in a courtroom where consequences come with legal costs and official judgments that don't disappear when the next trending topic arrives. And this is where Malema's real play becomes clear, because this isn't just about clearing his name in one case. It's about setting a precedent, about reminding every influencer, every blogger, every insider that the line between commentary and defamation is not as blurry as they like to think. That you can criticize him all day, challenge his politics, question his policies, debate his ideology, but the moment you present unverified personal allegations as fact, you step into a different arena entirely. One where he is more than willing to meet you, and that changes the entire landscape, because now the people who built their platforms on bold claims and viral exposés have to pause, even if just for a second, and ask themselves, if this ends up in court, do I survive? And for many of them, the honest answer is no. And that's why this moment feels bigger than just one case, because it exposes a pattern, not just of reckless reporting, but of selective skepticism, where some figures are questioned and relentlessly, while others are believed instantly when it suits the narrative. And Malema sits right at the center of the contradiction, a man who is both heavily scrutinized and strangely easy to smear, depending on who is telling the story, of course. And the irony in all of this is almost poetic, because the same voices that constantly call for accountability, for truth, for justice, suddenly find themselves uncomfortable when accountability arrives in a form they didn't expect. When the system they claim to respect delivers a result that doesn't match their assumptions. And now the conversation has to evolve, whether people like it or not. Because this isn't just about whether Malema was right or wrong in this instance. It's about the standard we apply moving forward. About whether South Africa is willing to separate fact from fiction, even when the fiction is more entertaining, more satisfying, more aligned with our biases, and judging by how quickly this story spread in the first place. That's still very much a work in progress. But one thing is clear, whether you support him or can't stand him, Malema has once again demonstrated that in a country where the loudest voices often dominate the conversation, the quiet authority of the law can still cut through the noise. And when it does, it leaves a lot of very confident people suddenly unsure of what to say next. And that's the real question today. Are we actually interested in the truth, or are we just addicted to stories that confirm what we already believe? Because if today proved anything, is that South Africa doesn't just have a political problem. It has a credibility problem. Now, if you want more breakdowns like this, not the sugar-coated version, not the trending version, but the real uncomfortable analysis that actually makes you think, hit subscribe to Mzansi Roast right now. Because here, we don't just follow the noise, we expose it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did the court get it right, or is this something deeper? And if you have ever seen a viral story and thought Something about this doesn't feel right. This is your channel. Subscribe, stay sharp, and not get played by the timeline.